you doing? Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing really well. Last week I said that we were just slowly easing into things. You know, it's January, the new releases are going to be coming in a little bit slower. I was completely wrong. I was completely wrong. I've jinxed myself. It's been an absolutely mad week for new releases. So New Metal Monday, where I talk about my favourite new releases of the week, and I have 5 brand new albums and I fell in love with every single one of them. So I'm not going to jinx myself. It's going to be another mad year. I keep saying each year, this is going to be a great year. This year is going to be absolutely insane. And it just gets even more wild as the years go on. So lesson to myself, I'm just not going to say anything. Otherwise I'm going to make it difficult for myself. Anyway, like I said, 5 brand new albums that I want to talk about this week, and I'm just going to dive straight in. Okay, so first up on my list, I have a huge release from last week, and that is Saxon with Hellfire and Damnation, and it's the 24th studio album from the new wave of British heavy metal legends. Now, I have to be honest, I am a little bit hit and miss with Saxon's discography. I do have a soft spot for Denim and Leather, which was released in 1981, and I also have a real soft spot for Crusader, which was released in 1984. But this record, I absolutely fell in love with this record. It's so much fun and I really enjoyed it. And one thing that I find really cool about this record is that the pioneers of the new wave of British heavy metal movement have managed to release an incredibly fiery, enjoyable album almost 50 years into their career. 24 studio albums is an absolutely monumental milestone to hit, but 50 years on the scene is just absolutely incredible, and these guys certainly know what they're doing. You know, their no-nonsense attitude is certainly prevalent from the very start of this record. Ridiculously catchy melodies, flying solos, really thunderous energy. And there's just something about this record that has a real commanding presence about it. The riffs and the guitar work in this across the board are just absolutely incredible, but another thing that stands out to me is their storytelling capabilities. You know, the storytelling aspect of this is incredibly addictive, and it just wants you to look into it more and find out more. So they've got songs about the Battle of Hastings, the Salem witch trials, the aliens of Roswell, the execution of Marie Antoinette. And the little history nerd that I am got really excited about this. But not only that, at the very beginning of the record, there is an introduction, a proclamation by none other than Brian Blessed himself. And he himself has a really commanding presence. And I fully believe that he should be narrating loads of different audiobooks for like the fantasy genre, because I think he would be absolutely stellar at it. I love his voice and I absolutely love everything that he's ever performed in. I'm a huge fan of Brian Blessed. So when I find out that he does the proclamation at the beginning of this record, and he has another little appearance halfway through the record as well, just very excited, and it just adds a really cool 80s kind of ominous vibe to it. So if you are looking for a ridiculously catchy yet heavy new wave of British heavy metal classic with a modern approach, definitely check this out. Saxon definitely have that magic in them still. So obviously if you are a fan of the new wave of British heavy metal genre, if you're a fan of Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Def Leppard, you're going to be all over this. I honestly believe that this is one of their strongest albums to date, and I absolutely loved this. And it definitely shows that they still have that magic about them, and I'm really excited to see what they do next. A standout moment for me on this record is definitely Madame Guillotine. It's about the execution of Marie Antoinette during the French Revolution in 1793. And it's an incredibly catchy, mid-tempo stompy stomp. Yes, the stompy stomps are making their appearance in the very first album that I'm talking about this week. And it just has this really cool, catchy chorus that you can sing along to as well, but there's a very energetic presence about it as well, and I absolutely loved this. So once again, all of the tracks that I talk about for each album will be included in the description box below, so after you've seen this video, you can just click on the links and they'll take you to the relevant tracks that I'm talking about for each album. So yes, Saxon, Hellfire and Damnation, get on this for all of your new wave of British heavy metal needs. I absolutely loved this album and really enjoyed it. Okay, so next up on my list I have Awnstone with Dead Mother Moon, and it's the debut album from the melodic death metal band from the US, and this record blew me away, and I've listened to it multiple times throughout the entire weekend since it was released last Friday. I absolutely love this record. First of all, look at that album artwork. That album artwork is absolutely stunning. I love artwork like this, and honestly, it was the artwork that really drew me into the album to begin with before I even knew what the genre was. I'm a huge melodic death metal fan as well, so that combined with the artwork, definitely all over this. As for the material itself, it is very much based on the Gothenburg style scene of melodic death metal, but it also has a modern approach to that. So if you think old school In Flames from the 90s, the likes of the Jester Race, Colony, there's some At the Gates influences in there as well, but there's also a lot of Night Rage influences, especially when it comes to the vocals. You know, the vocal style is very raw, it's very rasping, and it's incredibly powerful, and this definitely falls on the heavier side of the melodic death metal genre, but again, it has a lot of that 90s Gothenburg scene elements to it too. The entire record has a really great combination of that fast-paced ferocity and really cool groove-laden mid-tempo moments too. The melodies and the harmonies in this record are both absolutely devastating and stunning, but they're also peppered with a lot of acoustic elements in there as well. The record is just incredibly well crafted and it takes you on a journey. It's ferocious, it's frantic, and it's absolutely stunning. The sheer energy and power behind this entire record is just unbelievable. But not only that, it does have guest vocals from Brian Fair of Shadows Fall, and I have a particular soft spot for their cover of Dig Up Her Bones by the Misfits. They've done an absolutely wonderful job of covering that track. They've really made it their own, and that's a lot because Dig Up Her Bones is one of my favourite Misfits tracks of all time. So if you are a fan of the likes of old school 90s In Flames, At the Gates, Dissection, Night Rage, you're definitely going to want to get onto this one. Paradise Failed is that standout moment for me, and that's the track that Brian Fair of Shadows Fall appears on as well. This is an absolute rager of a track. It's really intense, and the solo in this is absolutely amazing. It twists, it turns, and it has a really strong rhythm section. The rhythm and the melodies in this are absolutely unreal, and I loved this. I'm a huge fan of Shadows Fall as well, so the fact that they were involved in this, or at least Brian Fair was involved in this, definitely all over it. You will not be disappointed, so definitely check out Awnstone with Dead Mother Moon. Okay, so next up I have Malist with Of Scorched Earth, and it's the 5th studio album from the Russian Czechian atmospheric black metal band. And when I say band, this is another one-man band project. This is another solo project, and I keep saying this in all of my videos when these kind of projects appear. Solo projects, one-man band projects are absolutely unreal. I know I use the word absolutely a lot. You guys have highlighted that to me in the comments. I am aware. Let's turn that into a drinking game and we'll see how smashed we get very, very quickly. But anyway, I digress. This album is incredible. I love my melodic atmospheric black metal just as much as my melodic death metal, but there's something really majestic about this. This is definitely a riff-driven album. There's a huge guitar presence with heavy emphasis on the black metal ferocious riffage, but lots of really cool melodies and harmonies throughout as well. There's some really cool synthy moments throughout the record as well, which are really well placed, and it really does create a really dynamic layer to the record, as well as haunting spoken word moments as well. This is a very layered, multi-dimensional record, but it has that classic black metal sound with all the cool melodies, all the cool harmonies, hard riffs, epic solos, and the guttural vocals in this are really, really intense. So if you are a fan of the likes of Immortal, Black Braid, Dark Funeral, with a wee bit of Insomnium in there as well, you're definitely going to want to get onto this. I absolutely adore this record. Ode to the Night really stands out for me on this record. It really does showcase that epic instrumentation that the entire record displays, but this one in particular is just absolutely immense. It's a good balance between that kind of Black Braid element and Insomnium element mixed in together. Hauntingly atmospheric, really, really dense on that atmosphere. Really cool piano elements, you've got all of those synthy moments, blistering blast beats, epic solos, and really cool acoustic moments in there as well. But like I said, this is a multi-dimensional layered album, and I absolutely adore this, so definitely get onto this one. Okay, so next up I have Vemod with The Deepening, and this is the second studio album from the Norwegian atmospheric black metal band, and this is their first album in 12 years. We've waited 12 full years for this record to be released, and emphasis on the atmosphere on this. This is proper, deep, guttural black metal that Norway just absolutely excel at, and it's so dense, it's so heavy, and it takes you on this massive snow-capped mountain journey of epic heavy darkness. Can you tell I really enjoyed this one? I'm going to be honest, I was really overwhelmed the first time I listened to this album, and it is really, really intense, but in the best way possible. It's melancholic, but it's incredibly crushing at the same time. There's a lot of passion, there's a lot of energy, and it gets quite emotive when you listen to it as well. I'm not going to lie, this is gritty, it's grandiose, like I said, it's incredibly powerful and passionate, and it's definitely a record that you need to listen to more than once because there's so many layers throughout this record. You're not going to catch it all the first time you listen to it. So it's definitely a grower, but every time you listen to it, you are going to pick up on something new. Very dark, devastating, brutally heavy bass lines, really cool tempo changes, stunning vocalizations in this. There's a lot of chanting elements, there's harsh vocals, there's clean vocals, soaring guitars. The guitar work is incredibly intricate, but really, really ferocious at the same time. And when I say it's sprawling, it really is sprawling. The first track after the intro is 13 minutes long, and the last track is 16 minutes long, so this is a long album. But like I said, you really do need to listen to it more than once just to really absorb the full atmosphere and all of the artistry and the musical prowess throughout this entire record. So if you're a fan of Agaloch or Alcest, you're definitely going to want to get onto this. It has that really dense, atmospheric black metal vibe about it. It's honestly an outer body experience when you listen to an album like this, and I really, really enjoyed it. I'm not going to try and pronounce the track that I liked the best, so I'll put it on the screen somewhere. My Norwegian is awful. In fact, just speaking English, which is my first language, is beyond an absolute joke for me at the best of times, never mind something else. So I'll put the title of the track that I really like best on the screen somewhere. It'll be somewhere around here. Now this track was actually surprisingly quite groove laden. It's really vibrant, it's really dynamic, and it is mostly instrumental, but there are vocalizations throughout as well. The band really know how to display their musical capabilities on this track, and I absolutely loved it. So definitely get onto this if you like your really dense, atmospheric black metal that just soars all over the place and takes you on that snow-capped mountain adventure. Speaking of mountains, the very last record that I want to talk about here comes from my homeland. It comes from Scotland, and that's Scall with Traverse the Ballach, and it's the second studio album from the black, folk, progressive, post-metal, one-man band from Glasgow, Scotland. So naturally, I jumped all over this. Being a native Scot, I try to promote and encourage and support the Scottish metal scene as much as I possibly can for a wee channel. But I genuinely fell in love with this record. I absolutely loved this. Plus that artwork is just absolutely stunning. So the general story behind this concept record is that of a nomadic traveller in a post-apocalyptic Scotland, facing his fate, trying to figure out who he is, whilst also traversing the harsh elements of the north, which is very apt right now because the whole of Scotland is currently being battered by a severe storm at the time that I'm recording this. Now, Traverse the Ballach is in reference to a single track winding road in the north of Scotland called the Ballach na Ba, and it is notoriously the most difficult road in Scotland to drive. It's high up in the mountains, you've got steep drops either side of you, it winds, it has hairpin turns, very, very, very scary road, but absolutely gorgeous in terms of scenery. So now Ballach na Ba is Scottish Gaelic for Pass of the Cattle or Cow Lane, and basically it was used to transport livestock by foot far distances to markets and different farms and things like that. Now, just as a wee side note, Scala is Scots Gaelic for shadow or shadowing. But anyway, I digress. Onto the actual material for this album, and not just a Scots Gaelic lesson that I have absolutely no rights in teaching because I don't know how to speak the language myself and I've only just started learning because I'm a poor Scots person, but I will get there in the end. Anyway, like I said, this is another solo project from Tony Dunn, who is an ex-band member of Sur and Phallic, and he is also a multi-instrumentalist. And the one thing I can do to describe this record is say that it is an expansive soundscape. It's a great balance between black metal elements, but it's also heavy on the progressive side, on the folk metal, on the post-metal, and it is just absolutely stunning. Really crisp, clear, soaring, clean vocals, intricately precise, gorgeous guitar melodies, and it is just absolutely incredible with a lot of dramatic flair. A sprawling atmosphere full of really catchy hooks. The guitar work in this is so immense. It soars, it flies, it's really, really intricate, but really, really catchy at the same time. But not only is it really melodic and it is absolutely stunning, it's really, really heavy and really crushing at the same time. And again, I have to highlight the vocal ability in this. Really clean, really crisp, beautiful soaring vocals. Now this record is definitely the longest record in this week's picks. It's just over an hour long, but it does take you on an expansive journey, and honestly, when you listen to the whole thing, it does not feel like it's an hour long. It really sucks you in and it takes you on that nomadic journey through the Scottish Highlands. So if you're a fan of Sur, Phallic, Alcest, with a little bit of Devon Townsend and the ocean thrown in there as well, you're definitely going to want to get onto this. I absolutely adored this record. Sam's To Shout at the Void was definitely a standout moment for me, and it opens the record as well, and I did have a little bit of a giggle because I just pictured somebody standing on a mountainside in the Scottish Highlands just yelling into the void. I think we should all do that for a little bit of self-care every now and again. But this track builds with epically precise instrumentation. Layers of guitar work, piano elements, thunderous drums in this. The rhythm section is just absolutely unreal. Really cool sprawling riffs in this, and when the vocals eventually do come in, they really burst into life. There's just something really rousing and atmospheric, and it really speaks to your soul when you listen to this record, and I absolutely loved this. Really, really addictive, and I've listened to it quite a few times over the weekend as well. And that's it for this week's New Metal Monday. I was quite excited talking about this, so I did ramble on quite a lot, but I get very, very passionate when I'm talking about the metal that I love, and I just want to recommend something to you guys that I hope that you would love too. Let me know in the comments section below what you think of the albums and the tracks that I've recommended this week. Once again, all of the tracks that I've been talking about in this week's video will be in the description box below, so you can just click on the link and it'll take you to that. If you could like, share and subscribe, I really do appreciate all of your support as always. Thank you so much, and I'll see you very soon in my next video.